play drumbeat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn, we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20-34. They have 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, I do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in a very happy Wednesday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network on this March the 12th. And if it's March, that means one thing, madness. And we have got plenty of it going on here today. A great slate of college basketball, 40 games scheduled here today, with each and every one of them having some sort of meaning, whether it's advancing in conference tournaments or punching your ticket to the big dance for the mid-majors. So we've got also some teams just trying to strengthen their case, not being a bubble team on the outside looking in. A game like what's coming up a little bit later between Georgia and Oklahoma, 2 teams right there on the bubble, going to be battling each other in the SEC tournament right out of the gate. So who will have another win notched under their belt and make that case? So there is a lot, and I mean a lot, going on here in just these 40 games today, with about a quarter of them already in the books. In fact, we just watched in the Big East, Butler advanced. They handled business against Providence, 75-69. We also, it looks like Texas is going to hold on to beat Vanderbilt in that opening round of the SEC. And of course, Arkansas exacted a little revenge earlier today after getting absolutely embarrassed a week and a half ago against South Carolina. Well, they were able to get one back there as Arkansas and Coach Calipari get it done 72-68. So Arkansas will be advancing, but we've got a ton getting ready still here in the big boy and the big Power 4 conference tournaments, including just about to tip off here, Iowa at Ohio State. 2 teams, again, maybe on that bubble, and boy, a win or a couple of wins in their conference tournament would go a long, long way into helping them maybe get one of those bids by the selection committee. You also have a couple of teams right now trying to punch their way into it. In fact, You've got a pretty good one right now with Lamar and McNeese State in the Southland Conference, the championship game. Winner of that game, they're automatically into March Madness. Now, that is why they call it Madness, because no lead is safe. Just because you're out in front early doesn't mean you're out in front late. And we have seen a couple of unbelievable finishes already in just the first couple of days here of conference tournaments. And we all know it's going to get crazier than that. We also had earlier today in the Atlantic 10, underdogs seem to be barking here in a couple of spots early on. In fact, Richmond came close to outdoing Davidson as a 6.5-point dog, but Davidson was able to come back. They were down at that at a lot of points in that game, but they were able to come back 69-65. Richmond does get the cover, but Rhode Island as a 4.5-point favorite there. Yeah, in the Atlantic 10. Fordham wasn't interested about Rhode Island being the favorite because they outright beat them from the get-go. 88-71. The Fordham Rams will be advancing in the Atlantic 10. And currently right now you've got LaSalle and UMass in the second half doing battle. Again, the Atlantic 10 conference underway now, conference tournament. Virginia lost to Georgia Tech earlier in the lowly ACC, but North Carolina, very businesslike today, dispatched of Notre Dame, who had one heck of a game yesterday, was able to advance to this game 76-56. It really wasn't even close. I think a 43-29 first half lead for North Carolina, and it was smooth sailing from there. Not only did North Carolina get the cover, but that game stayed way under the total as well. California and Stanford is the next one up there for the ACC, and who doesn't always think ACC when Cal and Stanford play one another? But that is the world we live in now. That game coming up at 7 o'clock Eastern time, top of the hour here. Stanford, 5.5-point favorite, 139.5 is the total. That opened up at 142.5. So the biggest move in that game has been to the under. And we've seen this a couple of times during the season. In fact, Stanford handled business rather easily in both games against Cal this season during the regular season. Will they make it a 3-for-3? The market, not sure. 5.5 has been stuck there the entire time, all day. Not a lot of movement one way or the other, but we don't think we're going to get a ton of points, it looks like, as that total remains under the 140 mark. Also, Kansas State and Baylor coming up in the Big 12, which already watched Iowa State handle Cincinnati easily today, 76-56. Also, Colorado came back. How about Colorado? Colorado handles business. They took care of TCU yesterday. They have now taken care of West Virginia. So Colorado, one of those teams we talked about, bubble-wise, boy, they handled business here in back-to-back days. They will advance to play another day. And, well, Kansas State, they won yesterday as well. Not as convincingly as it should have been, but they ended up having to take on Baylor now. And Baylor not getting a lot of love in the market. They opened up as a 7-point favorite, but I'm seeing 5.5s pretty much across the board, which means a lot of folks thought Baylor laying 7, that was a big ask. And I think they're right here. I think Kansas State is the right side. Baylor just has proven as a favorite like this, they just cannot be trusted. The total, though, has gotten a lot of love in that game. Opened up at 135. We're seeing 138.5s pretty much across the board. Those are your big conferences. And then, of course, who doesn't think Big Ten and USC taking on Rutgers? Does anybody not think of that? Well, that's coming up here a little bit later. Northwestern advances, takes care of Minnesota earlier. But USC as a slight favorite. They opened up as a dog against Rutgers. Now they have been bet up to the favorite, a -1.5. The total coming down also from the open, 154.5, now down to 152.5, as you can see there. So Eric Musselman, his first year with USC, looking to get it done against Steve Pickle and Rutgers, who I believe will have Harper and Ace Bailey available tonight. Neither of these teams play any defense, which is kind of shocking given Eric Musselman's career. But the total, not being fooled on a neutral site. This one's at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indy. It's a neutral site court. Keep that in mind with a lot of these games coming up here tonight. We also have 9 games in the NBA, a full slate, which will feature a possible NBA Finals look as OKC and the Boston Celtics getting ready to do battle. In fact, Jason Tatum has just been cleared to play for the Celtics. He will be in this game. We got much more on that and the rest of the slate as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by here on this crazy Wednesday. Madness is upon us here as 40 college basketball games, each one of them with a whole lot of meaning to teams playing in them as we get a little bit closer to Selection Sunday and the opportunity for brackets and for teams to punch their ticket. Certainly in the mid-majors here, and we've got plenty of those with something still to be decided. We've got Also, a great slate of NBA games here tonight. In fact, a full boat, 9 games on tap here tonight, kicking off, I believe, at the 7:30 hour tonight. Hornets and the Hawks getting ready to do battle from State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Not to mention, we talked about it, the Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Boston Celtics at TD Garden there. This has been an interesting line. Obviously, a lot of concerns from a health perspective, wondering whether or not Jason Tatum was actually going to play. He has just been ruled into this game, so he is good to go. I should mention there were some questions about whether Trae Young was playing for Atlanta tonight against the Hornets. Not that it probably means a whole lot, but yes, Trae Young also in that game, and that line holding at right around 8.5. Atlanta also will have actually pretty healthy here for the first time. Karis LeVert will be available in that game to them as well. We know Oklahoma City, though, well, they got a whole lot of injury concerns, don't they? Including, we know Jalen Williams out for the foreseeable future. There were some questions about whether Dort was going to play here tonight. And I, like anything else, make sure you have a understanding of who might be on the court here tonight. And as that information becomes available to us, we will go ahead and relay it here as those games about an hour and 15 minutes away from starting here. Alex Caruso also, by the way, just ruled out for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I don't so much mind the Celtics at 3.5 at home. The problem with the Celtics has always been laying double-digit numbers to mediocre or less than mediocre teams at home. That has been the problem for the Celtics, and Oklahoma City is neither of those things. And I'm looking at that total thinking maybe, just maybe, we get a few more points than that here tonight. But great games here across the board in the NBA and, of course, college basketball. And we're going to break down a few of them for you. Why? Well, we got our good friend Mark Zinno ready to roll tonight. Not only college hoops, but the NBA ready to go here tonight, Zin. And let's start here with some of the games coming up in college hoops, as 40 games tonight. Some of these teams already advancing. How about Colorado? Do you have Colorado winning 2 games in the Big 12 to advance here? Interesting. They're playing hard, but there's always a handful of those teams, Mark, during this time in conference tournaments that win a couple more games than they ever should have or would have during the regular season. And Colorado looks to be that team here tonight.
Well, house money, right? I mean, that's the general philosophy of some of these teams. You know, they're playing loose, they're playing free, they've got nothing to lose. They know they're not going to the NCAA tournament, and all of a sudden they play the best version of themselves. And, you know, look, West Virginia giving up 44 points in the second half to a Colorado offense that isn't very good. Probably one of the more surprising things we've seen in conference championship week. So I wouldn't have expected that, especially after having a 6-point lead at half, for them to lose by 13 in the second half. Kind of unpredictable, but give credit to Colorado for what they did today.
Yep. I mean, very good. I mean, that Stu did it to TCU, held on to get it done last night, did it to West Virginia here today. We also watched Kansas State win, not cover last night. They'll have an opportunity to win and maybe get the cover here tonight, as Kansas State taking on Baylor coming up. Baylor opened up as a 7-point favorite, and the market laughed and said, I don't think so. And this has been bet down to 5.5 now. And the total has been bet up, which is also interesting here with these two teams. Just feels like a ton of points for a Baylor team that doesn't cover away from home in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. It's just there's too many points to be delayed with a Baylor team that's had a ton of injuries this year, hasn't really had any consistent lineups. And look, while K-State is an awful team to play as a favorite, I don't mind playing on them as a dog. And while I don't think they'll shoot better than 50% than they did last night against the corpse that is Arizona State, Baylor's not exactly a defensive stalwart in these spots here, so I can trust them to sort of allow Kansas State to get what they need. And I think Kansas State is one of those teams, Joe, that actually plays better the more that they play. I think playing less than actually will help them settle into this game here, as opposed to Baylor having the night off being a higher seed than the Wildcats.
Yeah, I got another one in the SEC, which I think is interesting coming up top of the hour. LSU taking on Mississippi State. Mississippi State opened up as an 8.5-point favorite. It was bet up to 9, but I can't think of a team I trust less right now than Mississippi State because you just don't know what you're going to get out of them. This is a huge number. I mean, listen, LSU is no world beaters, but they play in the SEC, which means they're probably better than most people think. And, man, they can't stay within 9? Like, this feels like a ridiculous number to me.
Yeah, I would only play Mississippi State in the first half. I don't trust their defense for a full 40 minutes here. And I would tell you that if LSU is getting the better of them early, despite the fact that LSU is a bad defense, I don't know if Mississippi State is enough to be able to come back and win the second half by more than 10. Even if they're tied at half, you're asking Mississippi State to grab a 10-point lead in the second half of this game. With their defense being as bad as it is, I don't trust it. So it's Mississippi State minus 4.5 in the first half or LSU full game. But I don't know that I would trust the Bulldogs here for 40 minutes.
No, that's actually not a bad look. Also, I see the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference underway right now with Norfolk State on top of Maryland Eastern Shores. And you had a play in this game here. Who were you looking at?
Yeah. It looks like it's dead on arrival. Norfolk State, who averages about 78 points a game, is playing the worst defense in the Mid-Eastern Atlantic Conference. So, they only have 12 points here with 10:40 left. So not a good start. Yeah.
Well, as Game Time Decisions continues here on the grid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Yep. All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri joined again by our good friend Mark Zinno here as we are talking some college hoops, and we got some great games coming up here tonight still. We talked Kansas State taking the points there. Mississippi State early, don't trust them late. Norfolk State already playing to the tempo. At least it makes no sense to me I mean, that just makes no sense to me why they're playing a half-court game when all they want to do is run up and down the court here. Also, what are we doing with Nova and Seton Hall tonight?
I'll tell you what. Ready? Here's the D-Gen special tonight. You want a degenerate play of the night? Here it is.
Yes.
Seton Hall is literally one of the worst offenses in the country. They are the third worst offense out of 364 teams in the country. They have nobody. Both of these teams are bottom 30 in tempo, in adjusted tempo in Ken Pom. Villanova's got a very good defense, above average. Let me see where they are overall, but I know that they are a reliable defense that absolutely can lock teams down here when you talk about Villanova. And so Seton Hall's first half team total, Joe, is at 26.5, and it is juiced to the under. They are daring you to take the under in the first half, that Seton Hall won't get to 27, and I kind of believe it. They only averaged 30 points in the first half of the entire year. That includes playing all the cupcake teams from the beginning of the year. Seton Hall, under 26.5 first half. Throw a little pizza money down on it, but that's a D-Gen special tonight for me.
I mean, Villanova laying 10.5 points with a total at 126 is wow. Then how many? I mean, you're expecting Seton Hall to score 40 points, is what you're telling me for the game here. Because Villanova
is 58.5, right? It's 58.5. So they have trouble getting to 60. They have a lot of trouble getting to 60. That's not news to anybody. So the short answer is that they have to. They're going to have to put together something miraculous. The other team that I looked at tonight was Rutgers. I think they win the game. I think they beat USC. I think it's Ace Bailey and it's Harper Jr. and those two are going to carry this team the entire way. They're going to play as many minutes as possible. It's a win or go home situation. These guys are not there for the NIT, right? But both of those guys are going to the NBA. So there's no reason whatsoever to think that in crunch time those guys will take a break or take minutes off. So I like Rutgers here.
I also have absolutely no idea why it's sweating under out in a game with two teams committed to not playing defense and only scoring. It feels like a dead over with USC and Rutgers in that spot there. I don't know that I'd be running to the window to lay 10 with Kansas, but it feels like the right side, though. I mean, UCF could win last night, but feels like Kansas, there are worse bets to make maybe to run the table and play for a Big 12 title than Kansas. Not like they don't have the talent, right?
I mean, look, Central Florida gave up a ton of points to Utah last night. If you think, if Kansas is going to win, it's because their offense is right, and they should be able to score a ton, over 82. I have no desire to play in Kansas right now. I don't know what they are. I don't know how motivated they are. They're barely hanging on to a tournament bid at this point in time. They just don't look good. So it's a hard trust for me. It's a hard play in that spot.
What do you trust about? Do you trust Georgia to be able to win this game here? By 3.5, you do.
I think so. They would really like a win to ensure that they go to the tournament, right? You put yourself back in the bubble if you get bounced in the first round here. So I would expect that they would have a good effort. Their shooting is getting better. They've played a lot stronger towards the end of the year. Look at the teams that they've beaten, including beating Florida. This is a team right now that knows they need a win just to secure a bid. I don't think they lose this spot.
And the other late night game, of course, coming out of the ACC, feels like SMU can shoot Syracuse out of the building. That was way harder than it should have been for Q's last night.
That's a lot of
points.
It's
a ton of points.
I mean, I'm not comfortable laying that. If you put a gun to my head, I'd take Syracuse. I'm not sitting there. I'm not, in any size, way, shape, or form running to go bet SMU at this point in time.
That game in Charlotte as well. But Q's gets it done last night. Can they run the table as well? We know the craziness that happens with Syracuse in the month of March. That is for sure here. But much more college basketball still to come here, including that Cal-Stanford game coming up top of the hour, also in the ACC. So, Zin, if it ain't the 9 NBA games, it's the remaining games we have on a 40-game slate tonight in college hoops. Let's cash those tickets. We appreciate it as always. Game Time Decisions continues, though, next on the Grid.
it's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drifts. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as the madness continues, and we're not even into the tournament yet. We've got plenty of conference tournaments underway. Again, 40 games on the slate here today in college basketball, every one of them with some meaning. A couple of games already underway, a couple of games just finishing, and a lot coming up at the top of the hour. So who better to talk college hoops with and the madness that it brings than the wizard, our good friend, Mr. Kenny White, in the house here tonight. And Kenny, it's already been a very interesting day so far. We've got the dogs. Listen, the rule of thumb with March Madness conference tournaments, right? Bet the dogs early, lay the chalk late, right? That's kind of what we want to do. The dogs seem to have been holding their own and covering some numbers here so far today.
That's why they call it March Madness, Joe. It's because we get a lot of upsets. The dogs are live. It's now 5 months into the season. These teams continue to get better and better and better. And some of these teams with bad records, we saw Delaware run off 4 straight wins and almost have a chance to get the NCAA tournament. I think they lost their last 14 straight regular season games, and then they win 4 in a row at the right time. And that's because sometimes going into February, these teams know they're out and they've got no chance to really finish high. They're shooting and they're planning on peaking in the conference tournament. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, everybody knows when the conference tournament starts, hey, both teams are 0-0. And I'm sure you heard that from your coaches when you played college baseball. In so tournament time. Doesn't matter. We're 0-0. We got the same record as they do. Let's go beat them. And that's why you get that great effort from the dogs.
It's like being able to hit the reset button at the end of the season. None of it matters. It only matters what you do here and today. All right, we've got I don't know how you look at these rematches of rematches here, but we got coming up at the ACC. And, I mean, who doesn't associate the ACC with Cal and Stanford? It screams ACC here, Kenny, but welcome to a new era. And let's face it, I mean, Stanford's had their way 2 times already with Cal. They've handled business in the regular season. Now here comes that third opportunity, neutral site game here with these West Coast teams flying out east. What do you think? 5.5 is what we're seeing here.
Yeah, you're seeing me on the dog. I took the points early. I took 6.5 early this morning. When you look at the two scores, and I didn't go back to look at how the games were played, but Cal lost at home 89-81 by 8, and then they went to Stanford. They lost by 5, 66-61. So I like these revenge factors. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, and you know what? They can still beat them 3 times, and we can still cash our ticket. So this is a rivalry game. Always, I always say, these type of games, throw the stats out, throw the records out. It doesn't matter how much better the favorite is than the dog. The dog's going to give its best effort. They are focused. They want to beat their biggest rival. And in this situation, losing both games this year, I think you're going to see a very good Cal Bears team tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Listen, they handled it yesterday. A game under their belt here. Stanford laying at 5.5, 6 right now is what we're seeing here. We are also, and I don't know if because this just popped up, and you'd notice better than anybody, Cal's Jeremiah Wilkinson, the Cal guard, I guess, might have suffered a concussion. He's been ruled out against Stanford, and that just popped up to me here, Kenny. And I believe he was one of the starting guards, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like he's been ruled out. So I don't know if that affects the way you're thinking about this or if it's not, but that's why I think we're starting to see this line shoot up. I'm seeing 6.5 now, even a 7 popping up here, Kenny.
What's the name of the guard, Joe?
Jeremiah Wilkinson.
Jeremiah
and
Wilkinson.
That's it. Yeah, and that's why I'm seeing the board light up.
He's a freshman that is a sixth man that plays starters minutes. So he's not one of the starters. Well, he has started 14 games this year, but this team's got a little bit of depth, and him being a freshman, he's, I guess they actually, this is a really good passing team. They've got 5 guys that share the basketball, and really Blackshear is the main point guard. So I really don't have a lot of points off, maybe 1 point at the most on this. I'm still on Cal. I'm not gonna shy away from it.
Gotta love it. Instantaneous.
I want to bring up, a lot of people talk about, they played 3 straight days, or this is their 4th straight game in 4 days. Yeah. Well, Joe, you probably played basketball in your life in the summertime and went to the gym, and you ran up and down the court and probably played 12 games one day on a Saturday and went back on Sunday and played again. The playing back to back, when there's travel and you got to go to the airport and you fly to another city and you go to another hotel and then you got to go to another arena, that's tough back-to-back nights. But when you leave the gym, you take a van to the hotel and you go up the elevator to your room, that's nothing. These kids can play back-to-back every night if they stayed in the same hotel. So don't think they get tired. If they played 5 straight nights, maybe the 6th straight night, they'll be a little bit tired.
I love that. And it's so true. People usually say that, forget what it's like to have, 18, 19-year-old legs underneath, as if playing 3 games in a row is something to be worried about there. It is not. I'm going to be interested to see how you're approaching the game coming up tonight in the Big 12 between UCF, who battled Utah. A lot of points in that game last night. Now they have a second game, but they got to play Kansas here today. This was a big number, 10.5. The total opened up 153. We saw it bet up to 154.5. Are we getting more points in this one here tonight?
I hope so, Joe. The first time these two played at Central Florida, Kansas won 99-48. They destroyed and embarrassed the Knights. Well, Central Florida went to Lawrence and gave them a game. They led most of the game and ended up losing 91-87. That's 178. The Central Florida team is one of the fastest in the country. Kansas will run. They're going to go back and forth, up and down the court. I had Central Florida and Utah over last night. Kansas runs more than Utah, and their offense is better than the Utes. So, yeah, I like it over. It's not a great over, but it's definitely got value. I'm looking to see what I made this total. I made it 164.5.
Wow. All right. So we are expecting a point. Listen, Kansas can score the best of them. We know that. UCF may not get a lot of defense, but they can certainly score as well there. So 154.5, maybe even a 155 starting to pop in there. So the over for Kenny there in that Big 12 battle. That's the late game at 9:30 Eastern time tip. Now, if you're thinking we're getting points in that game, I can't imagine what you think we're going to get with UNLV and Air Force. Something tells me points, Kenny, are not going to be plentiful, at least not for Air Force in this one. How are you approaching it?
Well, Joe, there's going to be a second offensive player out tonight for UNLV, and I say offensive. His name's Rishwain, and he is their top three-point shooter. He was injured in the last contest. Julian Rishwain, 37% three-point shooter, 189 attempts. He's one of the, in the top 500 three-point shooters. Now, Dedan Thomas is the best player on the team, but he had a shoulder injury 5 games ago, has not returned. It looks like he's going to transfer, go in the transfer portal. UNLV's top 3 starters that are in are their top 3 defensive players, and that's what they do best. UNLV's defense has been great over the last 3 weeks. Under.
All right. Liking going under at 130. All right, stay there, Kenny. We'll talk about some of these other games coming up. Plus, CT Betts has got a big game he likes tonight. We'll talk about it here next on the Grid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drifts. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri welcoming back in our good friend Kenny White, the Wizard, here, has taken a look at these games here tonight in college basketball. The madness, it is underway right now. Also, a quick look at the board, Kenny. Looks like Ohio State up 32-29 in the first half with about 3 minutes to go. Little Big Ten action here. We already saw Northwestern handle Minnesota earlier today. And then, of course, USC and Rutgers a little later tonight to round out the Big Ten slate. But I want to go back to that Air Force UNLV game that you like the under on. I mean, listen, Air Force, one of the worst offenses in the country. We've known that all year long. I'm seeing 129.5, 130s pretty much across the board here. And I'm trying to figure out, how are we getting there, Kenny? I mean, honestly, and maybe even an Air Force team total under, maybe not a bad look here.
Yeah, that may not be a bad look, Joe. They averaged 61 points a game during the regular season, and UNLV definitely made an adjustment to play defense after a 5-game conference losing streak, and they dropped to 5-7 in the Mountain West. Since that time, on the road, they held Wyoming to 57. They held Air Force to 52, Fresno to 51, Colorado State to 61. I'll throw out San Jose game because they had a big lead. They held Nevada to 55 points, and San Diego State, they won 74-67, but San Diego State did shoot lights out from three-point range. This defense is really good, and they lost their best two offensive guys, and you mentioned it. Air Force, a horrible offensive team that plays slow. I think it's going to be a low-possession game, and it's going to be an extremely low. I would not be shocked if it's 25-24 at halftime.
Yeah, I think that's going to be as low as scoring as we're going to see on the board here tonight with that game. But I'll take the under 130.5 for sure with UNLV and Air Force. All right, our man CT Bets, Chris Thurston, once again, as he's welcomed in a new son to the world. Congratulations once again to CT and his beautiful wife, Amanda, as he's home playing dad now. So he'll be back for March Madness. But he wanted everyone to know here, Kenny, this Oklahoma-Georgia game, and who doesn't associate, Oklahoma and Georgia with the SEC? Well, you better get used to it because that's what we've got here. And he likes the points in this one. He's taking the plus 3.5 with Oklahoma over Georgia. Again, neutral site game here. And we know Georgia, not great on the road this year. But we've also watched a pretty impressive Oklahoma team who's been battling on the bubble the entire final month of the season, right? 3 wins in the final 4 games. They went 13-0 in the non-conference schedule. Man, a win here tonight in OU, I think, is firmly off the bubble here. Were you thinking anything in this game, total side?
I did not bet it, Joe. I made the game. I made Georgia 2 in the game, so I passed. The total, I leaned to the under in this basketball game because it is a big game for both teams. If one of these teams make a little bit of a run, I believe they're in the conference, in the NCAA tournament. I think Georgia's much closer to being in the tournament, so it is a bigger game for Oklahoma. But, hey, Georgia is not a lock to get in, I don't think, right now. A bad loss to Oklahoma here, they may be out. So I think both teams have effort tonight.
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good one, and usually that means on the offensive side, we've seen that total drop from 148.5 down to 146.5. So I think that tends to play into it also. And you tell me, we're starting to see the unders prevail here, Kenny, with some of these neutral site games and some of these teams. You got to keep that in mind when you look at these games. It's one thing to look back and say, hey, they split the season series or this team won ball. Neutral site games tend to kind of take the air out of the ball a little bit, especially early in these games, don't they?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, there's so much meaning to these games. When you go back and look at pace and how some teams play during the beginning month of the season, November, December, you'll see 78, 80, 82 possessions in those games. And now you're seeing 66, 67, 68 possessions. It's a whole new ball game when you're going into a game where the winner moves on and the loser turns their gear in tomorrow. That really wakes these kids up.
Mm-hmm.
So possessions last longer and defenses know more too. Most of the time they've seen these guys. They know all their moves now.
Yep. Yeah, well, and I mean, Seton Hall, Villanova, this is an interesting one, too, coming up in the Big East. I'm always weary when I get a total of 126 and I'm expecting one team to win by double digits. That's a big ask for Villanova, although that number still seems a little high. Kenny, at 126.5, 127 with these two teams.
I thought it would come a little higher, Joe. I wanted to go under in the game because of Shaheen Holloway. We saw him with St. Peter's years ago take his team to the NCAA tournament and make a nice run. And he did it with a very slow down offense and a great defense. And that's what Seton Hall does. So I think he can keep his team in this game, but they just made that total a little too low for me. The bettors bet it down. I'm just going to pass and stay away. I would jump in game, Joe, if this game started really fast, 12-10 in the first 5 minutes, and I could go under 132 or something. I'll do that.
I like that. I like that look. And did you, your teams out west there, Nevada ends up closing out Fresno State, gets it done, will advance. Who wins that Mountain West, Kenny, when it's all said and done here? Who's the Mountain West champ?
You know, it's amazing. If you throw Fresno and Air Force out and you go top to bottom, the other teams, they're the third best conference in the entire country. They are loaded at the top. I think the one team, maybe Colorado State, could make a run to win it, but Boise can win it. San Diego State can win it. Utah State, they're all really good basketball teams.
I'm looking forward to that tournament for sure. I think that's going to come down to the very, very end. Kenny, always a pleasure. Appreciate you sharing the madness. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
34. They are 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, I do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. And with a full slate here of NBA action, we've got college basketball. We've also got plenty of NHL games. Now would be a good time to check in with our friends Joe Madden and Tom Vecchio to see what's on tap with tonight's Sports Millions Pick'em.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's time to jump into our Sports Millions Pick'ems over here on the grid. Now, Tom, I need a big bounce back. I went 0-2 yesterday. It just wasn't my day out there. But you did fantastic. You swept your 2 bets.
Yeah, nice 2 wins yesterday for the ASU at Kansas State game. Mason for ASU going higher than 14.5 points. He ended with 17. Max Jones going lower than 10.5. He ended with 10. So we take that win. We move on to today. LSU taking on Mississippi State. I like some scoring in this game. This is the first round matchup of the SEC tournament. Both teams are top 93 in the country when it comes to pace. They're playing in the first round for a reason. They're not amazing teams. We're going to see some scoring back and forth. So let's turn Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard higher than 19.5 points. It's certainly a high line. We look over his last 11 games. He's had at least 16 points, 11 straight games. I know 16 isn't higher than 19.5, but I like what we're seeing from him. He has 5 games in this span with at least 21 or more. 3 games are up at 25, 30, and 38. When he gets the scoring going, he's going to be their primary scorer. That's what we've seen from him all season. So we have a consistent base with 16. Hopefully we get a little bit hot from him and he pushes over 19.5 to get to that 20. Cam Carter for LSU, higher than 16.5. We combine these. We're looking at a 3x multiplier. He leads LSU in scoring. We look back at his recent game log. He's been a bit up and down. I understand that. But again, I like the overall pace from this game. When he gets hot from downtown, he really gets it going. We are seeing some games where he's 5 of 10 from downtown, which is fantastic. Other games, he's 1 of 6, which isn't great. But again, the pace of the game and the overall volume of shots that he should be taking will point him in a spot that he'll be at least live to hit higher than 16.5 points. Joe, what do you got?
Yeah, let's look for some good shooting in that one. I'm going to go back to Syracuse tonight. I looked at Syracuse versus Florida State yesterday, and I circled Eddie Lampkin. Now, Eddie Lampkin in last night's game just went lower than his 14.5 points. I'm going to look at him today as Syracuse takes on SMU, as they came away with that nice win last night as an underdog, 66-62 over Florida State. So looking at Syracuse versus SMU, I do think we go back to Eddie Lampkin here, but I'm not going to look at his points tonight. I do think his points is looking just a little too high in this matchup. I'm going to take him for his rebounds. His rebounds have been really strong, taking him higher than 10.5 rebounds. The first meeting versus SMU, he was able to only put 10 points on the board and 9 rebounds. Now, I do think in this matchup here, the big guy is looking to make a big run. He's really pushing out there on the court, and I do think he's going to win that rebound battle. I'll take him higher than the 10.5 rebounds in this one. And then looking at SMU, we've got to look here at Boopy Miller. Boopy Miller coming in higher than 13.5 points in this game. Last time when he faced Syracuse last week, that was a win for SMU, 77-75. Now in that game, he was returning from injury. He had been off for 5 games. He was only able to put up 11 points. I'm expecting for him to be able to come out a lot stronger in this matchup with some games now under his belt. Look for Boopy Miller to go higher than the 13.5 points. He is averaging 13.4 on the season. He's coming off a great game versus Florida State where he was able to put up those 16 points. I have faith in him to come out nice and strong. So I'll roll with Eddie Lampkin higher than 10.5 rebounds, and then Boopy Miller higher than 13.5 points. Tom, that's coming in at a 3-time multiplier over on Sports Millions.
We will roll throughout the week with plenty more college basketball. So, of course, stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Well, we appreciate it from you both. And don't forget, if Sports Millions Pick'em isn't your thing, make sure you check out the Sports Millions Blitz'em.
Enjoy Sports Millions Pick'ems, but hate making the picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over and play Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/blitz'em.
I love it. And we are just getting ready to roll here as plenty more college basketball, NBA, NHL. We have got you covered as Game Time Decisions. Well, it feels like we're just getting started here on the grid. Come back and join us.
play drumbeat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20-34. They are 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, I do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri as we have got madness on our minds. Why? Well, college basketball. It's the month of March. You put 2 and 2 together, and that is what we've got already here. 40 games on the slate here today. We're about a quarter of the games already in the books. We got a couple of games at the break. Iowa, Ohio State knotted up at 37 apiece. In the Big Ten battle there, Ohio State was about a 5.5 point favorite when that game started, but all locked up at 37. Ryder and Quinnipiac. Ryder's got some work to do, down 43-27 at the break. And Norfolk State, 38-26 over Maryland Eastern Shores. And if you're going, where in the world is Maryland Eastern Shores? I have got a guy that knows exactly where all of these small schools are. Is Colby Dant in the house, ready to go here with the madness, Colby? And we've already had plenty of madness so far today. We saw some outright dog winners here. Dogs have been covering. And we got a interesting one there with Ohio State and Iowa, right? Nobody thought Ohio State should be laying 5.5. Listen, if Iowa's hitting shots, they're tough to beat. Can they pull this thing out and win outright as a dog?
Oh, I love it. I mean, look, you got a coach that's, I think is going to be leaning into retirement, much like what we just saw LaSalle cash with Fran Dunphy. The players get up for it. They know the moment. They know the coaching history there. So I love that angle. And I truly thought it was a coaching advantage, too, when you have a guy that's been to so many Big Ten tournaments compared to someone in his first Big Ten tournament as the head coach. So I love taking Iowa there. And then, to go back to your original point, Maryland Eastern Shores and Princess Anne, Maryland. The great Art Shell is a graduate of Maryland Eastern Shore.
Nice. I love that. See, I told you, no more useless information than you will find right here on Game Time Decisions. All right, let's dive into some of these games coming up here tonight. And let's go right now. It just tipped off, I believe. Kansas State was getting 6 against Baylor. The Bears there in the Big 12. Baylor away from home has been scary all year. I don't trust them on a neutral site. Kansas State didn't cover last night, but they still won by 5, and I think they'll stay within this number, if not win outright here as well, Colby.
I completely agree. You look at Kansas State, they went out and spent a bunch of money on that roster. It hasn't worked out, but they've had injuries. And where did Jerome Tang, where was he at for 20 years before Kansas State? Oh, he was on Scott Drew's staff at Baylor. So he's played Scott Drew incredibly well. And the team's healthier. You know, getting Coleman Hawkins back was huge. I took the points. I think the money line is live here completely. Baylor's been all over the place this year. They talk about a team that's been dinged up and you don't even know about the continuity. Like they've had so many different starting fives or, 7-8 man rotations that you're just like, the chemistry has to be an issue if you're taking Baylor to me. So I'm all over K-State here. They'll also have the crowd. We don't even talk about that.
Yeah.
That crowd will be, pro Kansas State, and pro Iowa State. So give me the Wildcats and the points there.
Yeah, I tell you, another game just underway that I don't trust Mississippi State to lay 9.5 points against anybody at this point in the season. And yet LSU, here they are playing with house money. Felt like, give me the points and the dog in that one as well.
I've been a huge Chris Jans fan for a long time, but one thing I don't do is lay a gigantic number with Chris Jans teams. They're just not good in those spots. LSU hasn't been good this year, but they announced that Matt McMahon's coming back next year. Less pressure to deliver, and I think that's a good thing. Sometimes your team plays loose. You play with house money, as you alluded to. I thought that number's a little off. I took LSU in the points as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. But if we're not trusting Mississippi State laying that kind of number, are we trusting Kansas to lay 10.5 points against UCF here tonight? The total's has been getting love here. Looks like we're up to 155 here, but listen, if Kansas wins, they could very well win by 20. Do we trust them to do so?
I look, I mean, I know they beat them by like 40 or 50 at one point in December, but the game in the fog, that was a much more recent game. UCF almost won that thing outright. I like the fact you got a game to play in. I know the crowd will be a Kansas crowd, but still, I just can't. This Kansas team seems to be all over the place. You got Bill Self writing love letters to the fans, saying, "I hope you stick around." You got just, to me, the Hunter Dickinson angle. They've whiffed in the portal to me on some of the guys they thought were going to be big difference makers. I'll take the points. I do think Kansas wins this game, but UCF has some talent on that roster. I think they can give them a game. So I'll take, 10.5, 11 right now. Give me the Golden Knights plus the points there.
Yeah, it's tough to lay that with a Kansas team who, listen, the good news for them is they get to start the slate clean here and see if they can't make a run at it. What about, and this was an interesting one too coming up, we talked, you and I just off air, Syracuse and SMU, 8.5, 9 is what we're seeing here. If the offense in the first half shows up that showed up last night against FSU, I think Syracuse can win this game outright. Can they sustain it? Because it looked like they ran out of gas last night against Florida State, which would concern me, them having to play from behind. How about you?
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't believe SMU is a good basketball team. Their record lies to you. They've beaten no one with the pulse, really. Now, I guess the argument against that is does Syracuse have a pulse? They haven't all year, but Eddie Lampkin's a veteran. He's been in college, I feel like, for 10 years. Getting JJ Starling back was huge. He was out for 5-6 games there. I like taking the Orange Men in the points, and I think, I know I'm saying every dog right now, but I just think at these spots, these select games we've gone with, these dogs are the play. It wouldn't shock me if Syracuse won the game outright. They just played recently in Dallas, and it was like a 2-point game or 3-point game or something. So, give me the Orange to stay in this.
Well, liking the Orange to keep in it there at 8.5 and 9 points. What about, who doesn't think of, Big Ten basketball when we've got, USC and Rutgers playing tonight? But we do. And we've got USC as a slight favorite. I mean, listen, this is when we're supposed to trust in Eric Musselman, right? But he's not played, his team hasn't played any defense. Rutgers won't play any defense. Why are we not just playing the over in this game?
Yeah, no, we are now we're really talking here, because I don't even understand how USC's favored. What they've won 2 of their last 10 games. I think Rutgers has been the better team of late. They have the more NBA talent. Why is USC favored? It's alarming to me. I don't even want any action on that. I think you're right with the total. I think the total is the smartest play on the board. With Rutgers, Steve Peichel team's normally great defensively. They're not nearly as good this year with all those freshmen. I'm with you. Over 153? What'd you say it was?
Yes.
152?
Yeah, 152 and a half, 153. I think that's the easiest play on the board here tonight. Expect 0 defense and a whole lot of points. And I think that's the way to look at that one. And right now, were you leading Stanford or Cal before that game tipped off?
I'm all over Cal, man. Just like the Grambling play earlier today. Rivalry game, take the points.
You heard it. That's it. Game Time Decisions will be back. Colby, we appreciate it, brother.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network, as we'll keep an eye on the college hoops games for you. We do have plenty coming up in the NBA with a great slate of games, in fact, here tonight, getting ready to start at the bottom of this hour. And who better to talk to than our good friend, Mr. Adam Kaufman, ready to go here tonight. And we got a couple of good ones that are slated both early and late. And, of course, your Celtics are involved in the early must-watch as they're going to be at home taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, Adam. So let's start there. Tatum in. Both these teams do have some injury concerns at this point in the season, so let's not kid one another. This is not, both of these teams aren't 100%, but 3.5 is what we're seeing here with Tatum in. What are we thinking we're going to get from the Celtics tonight?
Well, everyone wants to make a big deal out of this game, nationally televised, all that, call it a potential NBA Finals preview, certainly the chalk if that winds up coming to fruition in a few months. It's not quite that, because like you said, there are the injuries. The Celtics are not at full strength. Kristaps Porzingis has been missing time with this whatever viral infection that he has been dealing with. Nobody quite knows, but Tatum, Brown, these guys, they've been in and out of the lineup of late. Drew Holiday as well. Everyone in terms of, most of the main guys on that side are going to be available, which is partially why you see the Celtics as a narrow favorite. It actually opened a little heavier, has moved inside 3 at 2.5 right now. Another part of that is that it's in Boston. But the third, maybe most important part of that is that the Thunder don't have Jalen Williams. Now, I'm talking about, of course, the forward Jalen Williams, the small forward, not the gigantic Jalen Williams. It gets confusing when you have two guys by the same name, though they spell the Jalens differently, so at least we'll give them that much. Jalen Williams is a consistent scoring threat. Is he the MVP? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? He is not. And SGA, I feel like you have to look at his props. You have to consider, if there's no Williams to help him out with the scoring load tonight, where is that secondary scoring? And there are a few different guys that might be able to chip in, 10, 12 points, that type of thing. Are we going to see something out of Holmgren, for instance? But SGA is going to be the focal point in this offense, assuming that the Thunder are taking this game seriously, and I suspect they are. So, it's a big number. I get it when you're looking at 33.5 points for SGA. I just don't think it's high enough. In fact, I would consider, if we go down the little narrative street of stars will be stars on the biggest nights against the biggest competition in these litmus test games, Joe, I'd ladder up SGA. I'd ladder up Jason Tatum. I'd consider putting those two together, as a matter of fact, in a parlay. If you do SGA up to 40 points and Tatum up to only 30 points, just going a little bit over on both these guys, you're getting at it basically, or pretty close to 5-1 on that parlay. So, really it comes down to, I think SGA gets there. I'd be shocked if he doesn't have 35 and at least clears his number. But for Tatum, how much of a distributor is he? With Brown, with White, with Holiday even, with Pritchard off the bench, versus getting into kind of takeover mode, which we do see from time to time.
Yeah, and you're right. I think there's a lot of ways to correlate this game here tonight, the prop betting market, sides, and totals. And again, it could very well be, Adam, a preview into what we're going to get in the finals again for the NBA in a couple of months. So that's a good one. The late game, Minnesota and Denver, was the other kind of game that a lot of folks are going to be very interested in seeing here. Denver at home. Minnesota, I don't believe Gobert is in this game, but does it really matter if a tree falls and nobody's there to see it? Does it really matter here? But Denver, light number here at home. Are we getting points? Are we looking at an under? What are we doing in this one?
Yeah, just looking at exactly where the number is right now. So it's actually really hasn't moved off of the open too much. It was Denver -3 at open, and we still see some threes out there. There are 2.5s. I would be inclined to back the Nuggets. They're mostly healthy. Certainly their key guys, those being Jokic and Murray first and foremost, and then you start to get into some of the complementary pieces. I know Aaron Gordon obviously missing some time, and Porter's, there's a little inconsistency there. You do get consistent scoring out of Brown, who's a guy that I just feel like nobody talks about, which is kind of wild because that dude is a 10 to 15 point guy literally every single game. But again, it's the stars, right? It's Jokic on one side and Murray, and Anthony Edwards on the other side. And Edwards betting Edwards recently has been a little frustrating because Julius Randle, of course, is back in the lineup and looks terrific since whatever it is in terms of a personal issue that caused him to miss time that he was dealing with. And that's taken some volume away from Edwards, obviously. He's not seeing quite the same in terms of shot opportunities. Maybe shot selection is a little bit better. Certainly a guy that I would always consider looking at when it comes to going over on his 3-point prop. But, does he get to 27, 28, 29 points? I'm not so sure. I'm not too confident in that. Joker on the other side, this is just a dude that I realize we're losing a lot of value in the number, but how do you not just bet this guy to have a triple-double every single night at this point in time? Blind bet it. I'm not talking, full unit necessarily. If you want to be more conservative, triple-doubles are supposed to be hard still, but not when you're the freak of nature that Nikola Jokic is, putting in his MVP candidacy anyway against SGA there. So I think Jokic has a big game. I do think he has a triple-double. I think the Nuggets win. I think they clear this number. And I think Edwards puts up a fight if I'm looking at props, but I just don't necessarily think I go over on his points. I think he's going to, there's going to be a decent amount of distributing as well. So maybe it's points plus assists, something like that.
I don't hate that at all here. I think, again, that's another one of those spots where a couple of different ways you can approach the game from a side total and prop betting market. We did have one game that flipped from a dog to a favorite, and that was the Miami Heat as they get ready to take on the Clippers on the second of a back-to-back. I'm always a little weary of when we get those, the market flips it because Kawhi Leonard's not playing. That worries me a little bit here, but the totals also dropped. We'll talk about a few more of these games on the card here, see if we can't find any sort of value, but that is certainly one game we're going to keep an eye on as Game Time Decisions continues next here on the Grid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri joined again by our good friend Adam Kaufman here as we're taking a look at this 9-game NBA slate, getting ready to take center stage. First games in about 10 minutes or so with Oklahoma City and Boston as well as Charlotte and Atlanta and Philadelphia and Toronto. Philly, no Maxey, no Embiid, no, I don't know what kind of G League team they're rolling out here lately. But let's go back to that Miami game because the Clippers, second of a back-to-back, no Kawhi Leonard, no Norm Powell still. They opened up a 1.5-point favorite on this, and then that thing flips over, which I'm always a little wearisome. The total at 206.5 is also interesting here. Miami is healthier than the Clippers here, but do we trust Miami, who can't seem to hold on to a fourth-quarter lead these days? Do we trust them as a favorite here?
I don't trust either of these teams at all.
Yeah.
I don't trust the Clippers when they are healthy. And right now, as you noted, they're not with no Kawhi Leonard and the fact that it's a back-to-back. Look, if I don't want to bet this game. If I were to bet this game, I would bet Miami for two reasons. Home and the Clippers back-to-back, obviously. That factor, does mean something to me when Miami's just sort of sitting back and waiting a little bit, doesn't have to deal with any sort of travel. So, I would look to the Heat in this spot. You have, obviously, Hero. You have Andrew Wiggins back in the lineup. You have Bam. Even Ware is, can be a factor. So I think there's enough depth there on that side to justify, probably not bothering with the number. I know it's a narrow spread. If I was going to play it, I'd probably just eat the juice and take the money line with Miami. But I don't really want to bet this one because it would not take much for it to go sideways. Harden ends up, with no Kawhi Leonard going for 35 points and dishes out 10 assists, and Zubats has a double-double. Like it happens that fast, man. So again, I'd look Miami, but I don't love it.
I agree. It would be Miami or pass for me in that game there. And then you got Houston and Phoenix, interestingly enough. Van Fleet looks like he's playing in this game for Houston. 40-25 on the year. And the Suns, they're just a absolute mess. Fourth game of a road trip, I believe, here for Phoenix. What do we do here? Laying 5, it looks like now, huh?
So it's 4.5. So, essentially 5, obviously, if you're looking to cover the number, not as advantageous if you're on the Phoenix side and you want to take the points because you'd have to buy your way to 5. But look, it is interesting. Like you said, long trip. This is the final game and tough games, right? Like they had to rally to take Denver to overtime on the shoulders of Durant, and it was a great game, but lost to the Nuggets. And most recently, you had the Grizzlies, a narrow 2-point loss, sandwiched in between, beat the Mavericks, but who doesn't right now? So that doesn't say a whole lot. This Phoenix team, I realize a lot of people want to look at it and say, kind of coming apart at the seams. You look at the injury report tonight. Sure, there's no Amen Thompson, obviously, for Houston, and that is significant. But for Phoenix, you're down some role players. There's no Grayson Allen. There's no Nick Richards. But you have your most important guys in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And that, for me, believe it or not, is enough to not only want to take the Suns side, I'd even consider sprinkling the money line in what could be a little bit of a surprise spot here for Phoenix. Because the biggest thing that I am seeing, even in those losses, again, 2-point loss to Memphis and the overtime loss to Denver when they were down, 20 points or whatever it was, very easily could have packed it in to start off that road trip and did not. We all want to talk about how Kevin Durant, in, whatever the percentage, in all likelihood, is playing somewhere else next year. And usually when he gets to around this point of the season, when he's already decided he's going to move on, we do start to see him kind of, this isn't that, he takes nights off, that kind of thing. Durant is playing like a motivated dude who wants to silence his critics and show there's still something left in the tank there, and quite a bit at that, at his advanced basketball age, you might say. He and Booker are still a 1-2 punch, and as long as they are motivated, which again, I expect Booker to be, but so long as Durant is motivated, which he continues to be, this Suns team is a threat to do something. Not in the playoffs, they're not going to win the title, but night to night. So I like an upset here tonight for Phoenix.
Oh, like calling it there. Grab the points. Why you can sprinkle a little something on the money line. So real quick on the way out, Adam, Knicks get it done tonight against Portland, or Portland hold serve?
No, I think the Knicks get it done. I know that, no Jalen Brunson's a big difference, but you have Cat, you have the other pieces. McBride should be great, and Portland stinks.
Portland stinks. You heard it here. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Oh, God. All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we keep an eye on the college basketball games underway, and we got some really good ones happening right now. We also have, well, coming off of a Bay Hill Invitational, which proved to be unbelievable at the end there, and we're getting ready for the Players' Championship. In fact, the other major they never consider a major, and here to point us in the right direction, of course, our good friend Barry Cannon, as Brady. Good old Russell Henley couldn't get it done for us at PGA National there at the Cognizant, but, well, nothing an Eagle on, 16 at Bay Hill won't handle. And once again, Colin Morikawa left standing on the 18th green going, what else do I have to do to win a tournament these days? Kind of unbelievable, Brady.
You know, that is 3 runner-up finishes going back to last August, and you got to hand it to the guy. I mean, obviously he's playing extremely well. I think you could argue that he's playing the second best golf in the world right now. Maybe he's playing the best golf because Scotty has been off a little bit. Now, we know Scotty's still the best player in the world, but Colin, a runner-up to Matsuyama at the Century in Kapalua to kick off the year, a runner-up at the tournament, at the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club last August, and then obviously a runner-up here last week at Bay Hill. And I went right back to him, Joe. I thought, it reminded me a little bit of how I treated the PGA Championship last year when Xander Schauffele absolutely got stomped by Rory McIlroy at Quail Hollow the week before. And everybody was like, oh, my gosh, this guy can't finish. He can't close the deal. And I said, you know what? When everybody's saying he can't, I'm going to say he can. And he did win the PGA Championship. There was actually not a lot of anti-sentiment for Morikawa this week. There was actually continued love for Morikawa. I've seen him below 10-1 at some very sharp books. So I'm not alone in thinking this guy's going to be right back where he started here, and I think he's going to be in the mix once again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique place, TPC, Sawgrass, maybe some of the best. I don't know, that those finishing couple of holes are just over the top. The 18th over the top. But, of course, we all know about the Island Green there, the par 3. Nothing like watching this tournament on a Sunday, Brady, and watching these guys down the stretch. But is it the same old again? You're not going to back off Morikawa, but how far down the odds board do you go for this tournament?
I think you go as deep as you want, Joe, and that is really the beauty of this golf course. You talk about the finishing stretch, 16, 17, and 18 are just absolutely fantastic. The whole golf course is really a masterpiece. I mean, Pete Dye is the story here. He's put together a golf course that there's not necessarily one type of player that wins it every week or every year. It's not a star player that wins it every year. It's not a bomber that wins. I mean, you've got Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson and Sergio Garcia, and you've got Matt Kuchar and Fred Funk and Craig Perks and, Stephen A. I mean, it is all over the map on who wins this thing. And you look at everybody's track record. Ricky Fowler has won here before. He's also missed the cut a handful of times. Mm-hmm. Everybody's resume at this place is all over the board. It's very, very random. Now, I think the one thing we can count on is ball striking. That's the theme of the Florida swing. You got to be really good off the tee. You got to be really good with the irons, and you hope to hole a few putts. And that's pretty much the theme I went with. And that's Morikawa, accurate as heck off the tee, a brilliant iron player. And he can scramble like crazy. And he just couldn't make a putt last week. So let's hope he can make a putt this week. But, because you have such randomness on these leaderboards, I took 3 guys that were 100-1 or better. I took 4 guys, Morikawa at 14. I took Sepp Straka at 42. Oh, yeah. I took Aaron Rye at 50. And I took Daniel Berger, our guy from Florida State. I think he's ready to break through. He's finished top 10 here before twice. I took him at 55. And then I took 3 long bombs. I took JT Poston at 100, JJ Spawn at 110, and Joel Damon at 150-1. And I'm telling you, I think all 3 of those guys are live dogs. Are they going to win it? Maybe. But I think they'll finish top 20, and I bet them to do that as well.
Yeah, I kind of like the way you're looking at that here. As you can go up and down this board, and you can get as creative as you want. But we all keep waiting for who to show up in these tournaments here, where he still looks like he hadn't put it all together just yet, but it still feels like rinse and repeat. Scotty Scheffler, top 10. I mean, it is what it is, right, Brady? But at some point, he's going to figure it and put it all together, isn't he?
He is, but I don't think he's going to win this thing 3 times in a row. He's the only guy ever to win it back-to-back. There's only a handful of guys that have ever won it twice, let alone back-to-back. So I don't think he's going to go 3 times in a row, and we're starting to see his price drift finally. He's up better than 5-1 at a couple of shops out here in Las Vegas. I've even seen better than 6-1 in faraway places. He's going to be ready in a month when we roll down Magnolia Lane and ready to defend his title at Augusta. But it kind of feels like it's going to take him a few more laps before he is rounded into perfect shape. I don't think it's going to happen this week. It's interesting to note, Scotty Scheffler, when he was defending his title last year, he was the first defending champion to finish inside the top 15 at the Players since Adam Scott won it way back in 2000, whatever, So the point is, defending champs typically don't rinse and repeat, like you say.
Yep. Yeah, they don't, and it's especially on this course. It's a little more difficult here for sure. But it would be great if Colin Morikawa can pull it down. But what are we also thinking about some of the guys that we've seen in the back? I saw Jordan Spieth play here at the Cognizant, and he looked like he had finally figured some things out. We just watched Jason Day become a player in last week too. I mean, so. Some guys that you feel like maybe they're just a round or two to break through Feels like there's a lot of great value in the top 10, top 20 board here this week with some of these guys.
Yeah, I think you're really probably better. I mean, the outrights are for fun, right? I mean, it's a needle in a haystack. It's my lowest amount of risk. A couple bucks here, a couple bucks there. You hope to hit one. But yeah, I think you really want to focus on the top 10s and the top 20s and maybe even some top 30 and top 40 markets because this tournament is so random and so volatile. You're probably better off heading that direction this week than just really trying to stick an outright. You might get lucky. It takes a little luck. These things happen. But you mentioned Jordan Spieth. He doesn't have a great track record here, but like I say, course history, you can throw it out the window. It doesn't mean that much. Guys win here, guys miss cuts. It doesn't matter that much, but there's a connection between Pete Dye designs, and probably one of the strongest ones is Harbor Town, where they play the RBC Heritage the week after the Masters. You see a lot of crossover winners there. Matt Kuchar, Webb Simpson, they both won here at Sawgrass. Well, Jordan Spieth has won at Harbor Town too. So, he's got that in his bag, and I'd love to see him pull it off, Joe. I mean, we haven't seen that guy get to the winner's circle in a while, and when Jordan Spieth is winning golf tournaments, I think the game is better.
We are absolutely not betting Cantley, right? We're absolutely not. No Cantley. Unbelievable. No. And I think Xander's still a couple of weeks away, right? I agree.
Now, his price has gotten to the point where it's like, geez, 30-1. Do I want to take a stab? But I'm with you. I don't think he's ready. He's focused on the Masters too. I think he knows he's not ready yet. And I think we saw that last week.
I agree. And I think that's what this is all a tune-up right there for the first major. So a lot going on in the world of golf here, Brady. It's getting good as we work our way to Augusta, my friend. We'll talk to you again on Friday as Game Time Decisions. Well, we'll be back after this.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drifts. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri. I am joined by the man now that'll take over at the top of the hour for a little in-game live. He'll cover all of the games here tonight across all the sports, as we've got plenty still to be decided in college basketball, and we got 9 games here, a couple underway in the association. And Scotty, let's start with the game. A lot of folks very interested in seeing maybe a preview of the NBA Finals with the Oklahoma City Thunder in Boston taking on the champs, the Celtics. This thing closed 3.5-4. How were you approaching it?
Yeah, I got burned last, 2 weeks ago when the Celtics hosted Cleveland in a similar spot, close to pick them at home. And you think, okay, you got to give me the Celtics at home. So I didn't do that. I went with the over, Joe. They just tipped off, the same number literally like seconds ago. And I still think we're going to get a.
Yeah. Oh, wait, well, hold on, Scotty. We'll get you there in just a second as we just have to unfreeze you. And I think you're going to be good to go. And it looks like you're good to go, Scotty. So glad I could help there and turn the heat up on you. So go ahead. Tell me what you're thinking here. Over, you said, though, right? 229
so we're
and a half?
going over. Yeah.
Okay.
OKC's a monster over. 22-8 over. 11-4 on the road. We know the Celtics can put up a gazillion points. I think this has got one of those mano-a-mano things. Not a whole much is really riding on this, right? Celtics are going to be the number 2 seed. OKC's going to be the number 1 seed. So no reason to really play defense. So let's go over 228.5 right now. It is on FanDuel.
All right, love that. All right, up and over there. Toronto and Philadelphia, another interesting game, but you got to try to figure out who's in and who's not for both these teams. I don't know who's playing and healthy. I mean, Maxey was already ruled out. We know Paul George is not there and Embiid's not there. This just feels like a game based upon whoever is left and healthy on the bench for these teams. I would still give the advantage to Toronto, no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand this line. They just tipped off, and Philadelphia's out to an 8-2 lead. So now you can get Toronto plus 1.5, Joe. I tell you what, I really like that play because they've won 4 of 5. They've gotten themselves back into the Eastern Conference play-in race for that number 10 spot. They're right there, believe it or not, a few games back. Like I said, they're 4-1 their last 5. Philadelphia's just atrocious. 1-11 their last 12 road games, 8-23 against the spread, their last 31 overall, including 2-14 their last 16 games. I don't understand the Toronto thing being so low to begin with, and now you can really get them basically at pickup. So give me Toronto for sure at home.
Yeah, well, not a bad way to look there, Scotty, I think. Also tonight, although it looks like Utah finally has a whole bunch of people healthy, that could be playing in this game tonight for them. And they're taking on Memphis, who still has some injury concerns. No Santi Aldama, I believe. Jaren Jackson Jr. still out. So they've got some questions there. Should they be laying 12.5 in this spot?
Yeah, I don't think so. This is basically a trend play for me, right? But you do that every once in a while. And Utah just got fined by the NBA for sitting Lauri Markkanen when he was supposed to be playing the whole time. Like they're the only team that does that, right? They all want to lose. So maybe because of that, they've been warned. They do it again. They get fined $250,000. Now you're talking big bucks. So maybe we get an honest effort out of them tonight. They're getting 11.5, 12.5 at Memphis, Joe. But listen to these anti-Memphis numbers. How about 1-11-1 against the spread their last 13 games? How about Memphis 0-7 against the spread their last 7 at home? It's been a month and a year since they covered a home game. And then you may say, well, Utah stinks, and you're right, they do. But for whatever reason, they're 7-2 against the spread their last 9 against Memphis. And so, it all does kind of point to Memphis. Then you throw in the fact they were fined today by the NBA for not trying to win games. I don't know if they win outright, but I do think they keep it within single digits. So I'm going to grab the 10, 11, 12 points, whatever you can get.
I agree with you. Far too healthy and too much firepower there for Utah now to be laying that kind of number. And we all know Memphis ain't going to play any defense. What about Denver and Minnesota? The late game tonight getting a lot of buzz here. Seems like a small number, 2.5, 3 for Denver at home against the Timberwolves. What are you thinking we're going to get here?
Yeah, this is another strange line, right? Why is Denver so low? I got it down to 2.5 in some circles. I looked it up. Murray and the Joker are playing. Aaron Gordon's not, but I would not bet Denver just because Aaron Gordon's not playing. Minnesota's playing well, 5-0. They won 5 straight, covered 4 of the 5 as well. But Denver's 10-1 at home. I'm getting them basically at pick'em here. I'll be kicking myself if they lose, saying, "Man, I knew this line stunk." But give me Denver laying the 2.5, 3.
Yeah, that's an interesting card here tonight for sure in the association. A couple of games are getting ready to come up in his conference tournaments tonight in college hoops, including Seton Hall and Villanova here. 126.5 is a total. Nova's laying 10.5. Something's got to give in this game here, Scotty. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm going to go over, and I know that's dangerous territory in a Seton Hall game, right? They barely, some of the numbers, Joe, they lose every game by double digits. Literally every loss in the Big East except 3 has come by double digits. They barely score 50, 60 points tops, but it's at Madison Square Garden. They're going to have a lot of fans there. Villanova's going to have a lot of fans there. It is 8-3 over their last 11 meetings, including 1-1 this year. They had a high-scoring game and then a super low-scoring game. You know what? It's the last game. I do like playing overs in these games just because the team that's going to lose, they knows their season is over in the case of Seton Hall. Villanova's probably going to get an NIT bid, but Seton Hall, that's done. So they're never going to quit. So you're going to get a bunch of fouling. Give me the over 126.5, and we'll get it late in the game.
Maybe the play of the night, Scotty. I don't know how we're not playing an over here in this USC Rutgers game. 2 teams that will play absolutely no defense in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, this again, but what a lot of you-know-what lines today, right? Over 152. They played earlier this year, not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago at USC, 95-85, 180 points. This is almost a 30-point drop from, and that was a regulation game. I watched. I had USC. They blew it in the end. I'm gonna bite. Give me the over 152.5.
Over 152.5 in this one here tonight. We also have plenty more games and updates coming up, but Scotty, we'll see you top of the hour for In-Game Live. We'll wrap it up here in Game Time Decisions next on the Grid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Off of the combine this weekend, there's been lots of anonymous sources and position coaches and all these things that sat down in interviews with him. A lot of teams allegedly don't see him as a first-round pick.
Their big mouth that thinks they can do it either. They're embarrassing themselves. They all think they're so smart, everybody in this business. You're all a bunch of drips. Honestly, you don't know who's going anywhere.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we've got, well, plenty going on the hardwood here, including some college basketball action at the break right now as Cal, we talked about that game taking on Stanford. Who doesn't think the Atlantic Coast Conference when you think of Cal and Stanford? But right now, Stanford, a nice comeback there in the first half, 38-32 right now on top here of Cal. We also have Kansas State. Well, they got some work to do because they got absolutely blitzed by Baylor early in this game, 41-24 right now. Baylor on top at the break, and maybe the shock of the night here so far is Air Force as a 12.5-point dog is leading UNLV at the break 25-21. We had told you points were going to be hard to come by there, and that they are right now, 25-21 in that game also at the break here. And we've got much more still to come here, and we've got you covered on In-Game Live as Scotty Wetzel and the crew will take over in just a couple of minutes. That will include a great night of NBA action with 3 games underway right now. The Oklahoma City Thunder on top of the Boston Celtics, 19-18. They got about 4.5 minutes to go in the first quarter there. Charlotte and Atlanta knotted up at 19 apiece. They're about the 4-minute mark left in the first quarter. And Toronto out in front of the Sixers, 9-8. Still 6.5 minutes to go there. Some of the other games looking forward to here tonight with Minnesota and Denver in the 10 o'clock Eastern time hour, with Denver laying a short number, 2.5, 3 points against Minnesota. And then the New York Knicks will close it out in Portland tonight. Knicks had a nice win there on the road against Sacramento after losing Jalen Brunson for what appears to be a couple of weeks. But Portland has been feisty, make no mistake about it. They have been one of the best cover teams in the NBA over the last couple of months, and this is a spot where they're getting 4.5 points from a Knicks team that is a little shorthanded. No Jalen Brunson. It was nice that they got that boost against Sacramento, but I don't know that I can trust them to win this game by margin, as Portland has proved, well, they can hang with just about anybody in the NBA within the number, and them getting points at home is an interesting spot for sure. Also coming up a little bit later, the SEC tournament continues with Oklahoma taking on Georgia, and we are starting to see a little bit of line movement in that game there, as Georgia was right around the 4 mark. They were laying 4. This game is at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, so neutral site. They were the favorite over Oklahoma. We're starting to see a little more buyback for Oklahoma right now, so 3.5 is what we are getting in that one here. I do think Oklahoma is the right side here. I love what I have seen from Porter Moser and this Oklahoma team down the stretch. I think they've got better shooters, but Georgia's not going to roll over for anybody here. It does feel like maybe, just maybe, we're going to get some points in this game also. I don't mind an Oklahoma first half play in this one, because I do think that this is going to be a pretty good back and forth game where neither team is going to be able to pull away from one another, but it's ultimately going to come down to who I think can make some shots in the end. And I think Oklahoma has proven they are tough. And with wins in 3 of their last 4 games, clearly on the bubble. Don't forget, I mean, Georgia ended up beating Florida, 3 weeks ago here, bolstering their resume. Both these teams can be considered bubble watch, but some tells me Oklahoma needs this win a little bit more than what Georgia does. And we'll get a little USC and Rutgers coming up, where it just feels like the over is the way to look in this game, with 2 teams that have no interest in playing defense at all. The only problem is this game opened up, the total did at right around the 153.5, 154 mark. And I'm seeing nothing but under money, down to 152.5. I don't buy it. I am still looking to back the over in this one with SC and Rutgers. That'll do it. Don't go anywhere. In-game live is coming up next. We'll see you again tomorrow here on Game Time Decisions.